We're looking at the spiritual roots of physical illnesses and diseases. And last week we looked at God's will for his children to live in health and prosperity. Now sickness and illness isn't the way it's supposed to be. And we looked at different types of illness and the causes of illnesses, such as nutritional diseases caused by lack or deficiency in certain nutrients, genetic diseases caused by the presence or absence of genes in the affected person's DNA, combinations of different things causing diseases. We looked at physical influences, such as the wrong kinds of food. We started looking at spiritual influences, such as heart sins, curses, occult practices. And we looked at heart sins, which aren't seen by people, but they're inside. And things like disobedience to God's will. We looked at examples of disobedience in the Bible. We looked at dishonouring parents, how that puts curses on the person. And I don't think we looked at fear, stress, anxiety. So whether we did or didn't is so important, I think we need to cover it again anyway. So, right, fear, stress, and anxiety. If you look at fear, I think that's probably something everybody's experienced at some time or other. It could be fear of some person, or fear something's going to happen, fear of the unknown maybe. And it's an unpleasant feeling. It's an unpleasant feeling of perceived risk or danger, and real or not. It could be like I go out on the motorbike, go around the corner, you don't know if there's a car going to be stopped in front of you, or certain places up the Bulk Mountain where go around, there's one place, go around the corner, stones on the floor. So I slow right down to 4 or 5 miles an hour and I go around that corner because you just don't know what's there. It's, in one sense, it's a fear. So be careful, but still a fear. And fear could be described as a feeling of extreme dislike to some conditions or objects, such as fear of darkness and a fear of so-called ghosts. Ghost, hey, don't go in there. Yeah. For the ghost, so-called ghosts, I'll be up at it. And fear is one of the basic human emotions. And you have certain degrees of fear. You can be slightly afraid to absolutely terrified of something. And sometimes fear can lead to a phobia, such as agoraphobia, fear of going out. And if it's not properly handled, it can lead to social problems, health problems. And somebody in fear, they can lose consciousness. They can lose consciousness of mind, and they might do stupid and dangerous things out of fear. Fear can be used as a powerful weapon, which we see that now, don't we? With the COVID virus and the way people are being manipulated to be afraid, stay indoors, you might catch it. And the so-called figures for people dying of COVID, and even some politicians now are asking what's going on. People are going with the COVID saying the figures don't add up. So they're questioning. And by this, they're manipulating people into doing certain actions. And as in most things like this, or all things, there's demons of fear. And they have varying levels of power and varying levels of authority. And we know there's a global principality of fear. And right now, that global principality of fear is running rampant around the world. So, anxiety, stress, fear, phobia and tension, they're words often used interchangeably to describe one of the century's most common problems. I don't think it's for nothing that anxiety has been called the official emotion of our age. And I think looking around us, we can see a lot of anxiety. People can't go to work, and even people in work are full of anxiety. So it's the basis of all neurosis. It's the most pervasive psychological phenomenon of our time. Anxiety is like an inner feeling of apprehension, uneasiness, or concern, worry or dread that's accompanied by heightened physical arousal. And when you're anxious, your body appears to be on the alert, ready to flee or fight. Your heart beats faster, blood pressure, muscle tension increase, and neurological and chemical changes occur within. And sometimes people start perspiring. The person may feel faint, jumpy, and unable to relax. Now, neurological problems, they are problems within the brain, the way it works. Your neurons are like electrical impulses. They carry the messages around the brain, and they can start acting differently. I've had anxiety, and you go over the shop even late at night, and you're looking around, who's there? Is something going to happen? You know it's not. Or you walk past the person in the street, and you're apprehensive of that person. They might say or do something. You know they're not going to. And they might be thinking the same thing about you because of you feel full of anxiety and your body language is saying that. So they're looking at you thinking, oh, they're going to thump me or what? And you've got no intention of it. They've got no intention of thumping you. But it's all in your mind. And intense anxiety can shorten your attention span, cause forgetfulness, hinder your performance skills when you're doing something. It can interfere with problem solving, can block effective communication, arouse panic, sometimes cause unpleasant physical symptoms such as paralysis, rapid heartbeat, intense headaches. When you look at all these things, you see that there's plenty of openings here for demons to work. There's an anxiety demon, stress, phobia, fear, tension. All these can be demonic. And then they open gateways, doorways for the other demons to come in, to block what you're doing, interfere with your thinking, cause forgetfulness, stop you concentrating, and especially giving you headaches. And everything here can be demonic. So it's important that where you can, you don't let yourself, don't let anxiety get the better of you. And I know myself, it's hard. It's not easy, it's hard. 2 Timothy chapter 1 verse 7. John's turned to his Bible again. Can't fault it.
I can't preach and tell everybody else if I don't do it myself.
Exactly.
2 Timothy
1 verse 7.
Right, thank you.
For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. And what I do if I'm praying for somebody that has anxiety, I always loose God's spirits of power and of love and of a sound mind onto the person to work on their mind, to get them free from anxiety and stress or whatever they're going through. John chapter 4, verse 18. Give Sean a minute.
Do this, because Wayne could be making it up.
I could be, couldn't I?
It's best to check it up.
Oh yeah, I could be just put any old thing in.
He's got to check it.
Exactly, I'm all for that. So it's John chapter 4, verse 18. There is no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear, because fear has to do with punishment. The one who fears is not perfect in love. Isaiah chapter 41, verse 10. Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not anxiously look about you, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. Surely I will help you. Surely I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. And God does. He will uphold you. Now, where it says there's no fear in love, what I've found is, when I've done deliverance, that if it's a demon, say, of anxiety or stress, wrap it, or even a demon of hatred, wrap it in a blanket of God's agape love. They don't like it. God's pure, unconditional love. They don't like that. Now, fear and worry can be a distraction. It can hinder your relationship with God. Your mind can be on that so much. Whatever's distracting you, causing anxiety, your mind's on that and not on God. And they can get you tied up in knots. And it opens the doorway for Satan's further attacks of sickness and diseases. And lack of enough faith and trust can actually reduce your lifespan. It can bring an early death. Proverbs 12, verse 25. An anxious heart weighs a man down, but a kind word cheers him up. It does, doesn't it? When you feel down, a kind word can lift you up. Psalm 34, verse 4. I sought the Lord, and he heard me, and he delivered me from all my fears. Doesn't he just? Proverbs chapter 3. I got it again. Okay. I got to go on.
That's all right, yeah.
Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 to 8. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and shun evil. This will bring health to your body and nourishment to your bones. Don't forget, when it says fear the Lord, it doesn't mean be terrified of him. It means look at him with the awe and respect that is due to him. It means to love him and go, wow, that's God. Oh, look, he's amazing, he's incredible, he's awesome. Not, oh, it's God, it's God. Oh, that's Satan's fear. Oh, it's him. With God, it's wow. Big difference, isn't there? So, by looking at God like that and keeping fear away and stress, is healthy for you and it's good for your bones. And as we all know, I got bone problems, and there's a time I was like that. And the next one, which I was full of, was anger. There's a time I was full of anger. And it's an emotional state which is experienced by everybody. But it's hard to actually define what it is. It, again, like fear, it can occur in varying degrees of intensity, from mild annoyance to aggravation to violent rage. Anger openly displayed or deliberately hidden from others, unconsciously expressed, is at the root of many psychological, interpersonal, physical, and spiritual problems. As I've said before, I was full of anger, and I attended a deliverance workshop on Zoom last year, and at the end of each session, they did a mass deliverance. And at the end of one, a load of demons left me, and I felt so much calmer since. And I don't get riled up anymore. I used to, although I've been getting better for a few years, it was still sort of there in the back of my mind. Now nothing annoys me, nothing riles me up. Now, along with hostility, anger has been called the chief saboteur of the mind. It's the leading cause of misery, depression, inefficiency, sickness, accidents, loss of work time, and financial loss in the industry. For me, I can honestly say depression, that one, I've had, as I think I told you all before, I've suffered with depression really bad. But again, I'm so much better now. But surprisingly, anger is not a sin. Jesus got angry with the people in the temple, with the money changers, didn't he? They were scamming the people, fleecing them of money, giving the wrong weights and measurements, and Jesus lost it. But the thing is, you see, it's what you're doing when you get angry is where the problems start. People get violent, or they may get angry and just drive a car into a wall, commit suicide. It happens. And anger can cause fear, bitterness, wrath, slander, self-mutilation, suicide, and physical problems such as high blood pressure, heart attacks, and headaches, to ulcers. Again, if you look here, anxiety, fear, bitterness, wrath, slander, self-mutilation, suicide, all demons. Self-mutilation can be the result of a demon of anger inside you, saying, go on, cut yourself, cut yourself, cut yourself. And what's that then? Baal worship. Because the 450 prophets of Baal, when they were, Elijah challenged them, they were cutting themselves and cutting themselves. It was a blood sacrifice. It didn't do them any good, mind. And anger, when directed at other people, can include emotional, physical, cognitively, or verbal abuse, vandalism, or even murder. Galatians chapter 5, verses 19 to 23. Now the works of the flesh are hatred, outbursts of wrath, murder, drunkenness, revelries. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, long-suffering, gentleness, self-control. Again, hatred, wrath, murder, drunkenness, all these things can be demons. One of the things I like looking at is unforgiveness. This is huge. And it's the most popular poison Satan uses against God's people. And it can cause so many things. It can destroy lives. I remember when I had really bad depression, and I just didn't want to be around anybody at all. I just wanted to be alone. And unforgiveness can cause depression and health problems such as cancer and arthritis. Now, not every case of cancer is due to unforgiveness, but it can cause it. And cancer comes from the devil. And that's why scientists can't explain it. Doctors don't understand where it comes from. It's a symptom of a curse. I remember I went to a church once, 4-5 years back, I think it might have been. And one of the men there was waiting to talk to me because he knew I was doing deliverance. And he had cancer. And I said to him, what have you done? What's happened in the past that you haven't forgiven people for? And he told me. And he asked me, how did you know? I said, because it's usually unforgiveness causes cancer. It's a demon of unforgiveness, and that can let in cancer, osteoarthritis, and a number of other things. And as I've said myself, I used to be very, very unforgiving. If somebody did something, I would get them back for it, no matter how long it took. Look at me, operations for osteoarthritis. I'm not clear now. Hear that? My knee clicking. It's there. It's proof of this. I got osteoarthritis in my spine, my neck, I got everywhere. But it's getting better now. I'm more forgiving, and I'm getting better all the time. And this is all God, what God tells us in the Bible about forgiveness is working. I'm finding that myself. Matthew chapter 22, verses 37 to 40. Jesus said unto him, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. The second is like unto it. Thou shalt love thy neighbour as thyself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. So Jesus gave us two important commandments to follow. One of them was love one another as he loved us. And that's in John 15 verse 12. Love is the exact opposite of unforgiveness, isn't it? It's the exact opposite of unforgiveness, envy, jealousy, hate, pride, bitterness. All names of demons. You can't really love somebody and hold bitterness or unforgiveness against him or her at the same time. Matthew chapter 6 verse 15. But if ye forgive not men their trespasses, neither will your Father forgive your trespasses. So you've got to forgive people, so God will forgive you. Has anybody got any thoughts or opinions or anything to say?
So true. I don't hear many people saying, when people talk about fear, that, depression is actually fear turned inside.
Yes, yeah.
And you made the point there, I thought it was really good, because I suffered a lot with it, and I didn't think, I was fearful of anything. I thought, I was brave, and I was this, that, and the other. And the depression was caused by fear and also by anger, because I was very angry inside, and it was pressing it down, and that's what makes you depressed, rather than getting it out.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. And it attacks the body as well.
Yes, it is, yeah.
And I'm feeling so much better now since I forgive people. And there's people in particular I did need to forgive. And what they did was going around in my mind all the time. And it was pulling me down. But no more though. In fact, I've gone from feeling bitter towards his people to actually feeling sorry for them. And that's something I would not have done in the past. Or if that would never have happened.
The hardest part for me was forgiving myself. Forgiving myself for things I'd done, I couldn't forgive myself, but I have to forgive yourself as well. It's not just other people.
Oh, yeah.
It works both ways.
Oh, yeah. Matthew chapter 18, verses 23 to 35. I'm sure I'll have enough time to find this one.
Don't worry.
Therefore is the kingdom of heaven likened unto a certain king, which would take account of his servants. And when he had begun to reckon, one was brought unto him, which owed him 10,000 talents. But forasmuch as he had not to pay, the Lord commanded him to be sold, and his wife and children, and all that he had, and payment to be made. The servant therefore fell down and worshipped him, saying, Lord, have patience with me, and I will pay thee all. Then the Lord of that servant was moved with compassion, and loosed him, and forgave him the debt. But the same servant went out, found one of his fellow servants, which owed him 100 pence. He laid hands on him, and took him by the throat, saying, Pay me that thou owest. And his fellow servant fell down at his feet, and besought him, saying, Have patience with me, and I will pay thee all. And he would not, and cast him into prison, till he should pay the debt. So when his fellow servants saw what was done, they were very sorry, and came and told unto their Lord all that was done. Then his Lord after that, he had called him, and said unto him, O thou wicked servant, I forgave thee all that debt, because thou desiredst me. Shouldest not thou also have had compassion on thy fellow servant, even as I had pity on thee? And his Lord was wroth, and delivered him to the tormentors, till he should pay all that was due unto him. So likewise my heavenly Father likewise shall my heavenly Father do also unto you, if ye from your hearts forgive not every one his brother their trespasses. Two things. Now, Jesus was saying here what God will do, and it's clear it's God he's talking about, because he said, the servant therefore fell down and worshipped him. Jesus would never have given a story about a human being worshipping another human being. So clearly it was God, and delivering someone to the tormentors. Who torments people? Demons. So it's saying that if you don't forgive, you don't go to heaven. So it affects your eternal destiny as well as your life here on earth, your health. 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verses 10 to 11. To whom ye forgive anything, I forgive also. For if I forgive anything, to whom I forgave it, for your sakes, forgave I it in the person of Christ, lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. When people in the Old Testament disobeyed God's commandments, it opened them up to curses. When people nowadays disobey God, it can do the same thing. It can open them up to curses as well. So ask yourself this: is it better to disobey God and go through curses all your life, and have a 4-generation curse on your family? Maybe your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren cursed because you won't forgive. Is that a good idea? Maybe, depending on the curse, could be 10 generations or more. Or is it better to obey God and get blessings for generation after generation? That's the best option, isn't it? God's blessings. And not just that, but when you forgive, you're not forgiving somebody for the other person's benefit, you're doing it for your benefit. That other person may have forgotten what they did, or they may not even care. They may even be glad they did something to you. And if you don't forgive, it's you the one that's getting eaten up. Sitting there thinking, did this, they did that, ooh, I'll have them for that. What good does that do? Best off, let it go. Forgive them, God forgives you, you get God's blessings. Anybody got any opinions, thoughts?
Yeah, it does work. You know, giving a lot of people, and actually, you were surprised, you know, the weight, like off your shoulders, and, you know, and you feel, well, what do you call it? Anyway, yeah, I know.
It does work, doesn't it? No, it doesn't mean because you've forgiven that the memory of what the person did, the hurt, what they put you through has gone. And sometimes you've got to be careful and not allow the person to do it to you again. Maybe somebody, I don't know, give you a hard life. Your friend do somebody, they give you a hard time. It doesn't mean you're going to go back, become a friend of that person again and let them give you a hard time again. It means you just let go of what they've done. And I believe, the best way to do this is forgive the person and ask God to bless them. Because as well as blessing them, it's also blessing you at the same time. So everybody's a winner. The next thing we'll be looking at is bitterness. That's common. I used to be bitter, very bitter. And I suppose people in the world would say you are caused to be, but again, it's like unforgiveness. You've got to let it go. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 15 says, "Lest any root of bitterness springing up trouble you, and thereby many be defiled." Again, the root of bitterness means demon. Demons, bitterness again. Demons, think about it, demons are mentioned all the way through here. Once you get the idea of what they are, you can just look at something and go, demon, 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 demon. It's there. These things are everywhere. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 31 and 32. "Let all bitterness, wrath, anger, clamour, which is quarrelling, and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice." And malice is something that gets into that area of hatred because of bitterness, resentment. And in English, the concept of mental bitterness comes from the idea of something that has a sharp or